I'm bringing you a special on-location feature in my coverage of Union Pacific's Blue Mountain Trail in Northeast Oregon. It was the deepest off-road I got, parking in Meacham and hiking 2 miles into the canyon. Milepost 265.2 marks the distance from Portland by rail, as seen here on this signal post. My starting point to get to the feature for which Highbridge gets its name.
Yeah, meet the one more on top. They're about to get their lights at Perry. Gotcha.
I didn't get far at all before a manifest rounded the corner. UP 2711 heads up a Portland to North Platte freight, the B meaning it was the second train with such a designation on the 7th of May. With my target location still almost 2 miles away, at one shot to film 2 trains before the sunset, I almost didn't raise my camera for this train at all. The pistons pound, still at full strength, or notch 8 as understood by the engineer, with the throttle wide open. The train is just easing off its steepest uphill challenge for this crew's trip to La Grande. The stiff 2% grade relaxes to 0.4% for a short distance before taking on one final push to the top. At the summit, this train will meet a westbound, which I'm hoping will be the second train I see at Highbridge. Thankfully, with enough time to set up the shot I wanted, I caught my breath enjoying the sound of Meacham Creek. Snowmelt fills the talkative creek bed as it passes under the tallest bridge on the hill.
Milepost 260.9.
The canyon echoes the creek's pleasant verbiage until the drumming of 21,500 horsepower reverberates above the trees. This Portland to Ogden train is shorter than the one before and the one after, but at over 10,000 tons, it is much heavier, and the engines are crawling between 10 and 15 miles per hour. The track speed for all trains over the Blues between Huron and Hillgard is 20 miles per hour. I was able to capture 2 trains here, one each direction, and I decided not to cut out most of their passage, so you can feel more like you're observing Trackside as I was. As you can perhaps see, the slack in the knuckles is pushed in here, signaling that the tonnage is being handled by the distributed power on the rear. There is a point somewhere in the middle of the train where there is very little pressure on the knuckles. There is always that lucky car that goes between being pulled and being pushed up the hill and experiences little stress. Many trains experience knuckle breaks on this mountain when the stress of the weight fighting the powerful locomotives becomes too great. The place over the Blues that experiences this the worst is called Drawbar Alley.
Sorry guys, computer's being dumb. I didn't catch it. I'll get you better lights. Thank you. Better up.
The dumb computer the dispatcher is referring to is called CAD, which stands for Computer Assisted Dispatching. The system often likes to stop actual trains for ghost trains, and crews often know better than the computer where other trains are and where they aren't. So a little proverbial tap on the shoulder to the dispatcher is often in order to get things rolling again. While watching the sun light up the hills, I noticed something in the viewfinder across the valley. It turned out to be several elk emerging from the trees, grazing on the hillside. I could hear the whine of the westbound's dynamic brakes approaching and wondered if the great creatures would be spooked by the train's passage. A 2-mile-long North Platte to Portland manifest has just fully stepped onto the 2% downhill grade.
detector, milepost 260.9.
The elk have vanished into the trees, and now it's my turn to return to civilization, hopefully getting out of the canyon before the sun is fully set. The amazing crumbling rock cuts are checked daily by maintenance of way crews and cleared of fallen rock. And if you're ever hiking in here, keep your head on a swivel, because you don't want to be caught by surprise from anything coming from up above. I'm safely back at Meacham, and come sunrise, we'll be chasing the Idaho Northern and Pacific Railroad. We'll see you on the trail. Good night, friends, and God bless.